What's going on, everyone? It is the Derf, and if you are like most people and you've just picked up the Navigator exotic trace rifle from completing the quest for Rite of the Nine, Spire of the Watcher, you may be wondering, now that I have the Navigator, what kinds of builds can I use this in with my Warlock? In this video, I am answering that question. I've got a very easy to make build that has a lot of synergy. It is great against subjugators as well as Taken. It helps cause a lot of havoc and chaos on the field, and I think it is also a lot of fun. Generate your super in as little as 1 minute, maybe even quicker depending on the activity you have. So if you have been looking for that build, this is the video for you. Let's get it going, guys. Come on. This one is a fun one. Here we go.
Yeah, boy!
For our Navigator build, we are going to go with the Broodweaver Warlock subclass. Our only super of choice is Needlestorm, which is perfect because it's an instant burst damage super, which means that we can get back to using our weapons to keep regenerating our abilities as soon as we cast it. For abilities, we're going to go with Healing Rift. I prefer the Burst Glide, Arcane Needle, and for this grenade, we are going to want to use the Grapple. The Grapple is actually going to be key to how we're going to run with this build as we go through various activities. For aspects, first up on the list is going to be Mind Spun Invocation. Your grenade, your Grapple, Shackle Grenade, and Threadling Grenade have enhanced functionality. Your Grapple melee spawns 3 Threadling eggs, which means when we use our Grapple melee, we're going to spawn Threadlings at the end of when we activate our melee in a group of enemies. This is going to increase tick damage, and with our exotic armor that we are pairing with, it is also going to debuff any remaining targets to make them easier to take down. Next up is going to be the Wanderer. Tangles you throw attached to targets and detonate into suspending burst. Destroying a tangle creates a suspending burst after a short delay. Threadling final blows create a tangle. So when these activate into suspending burst, this will suspend everything up to and including champions. This is going to be incredibly helpful when we are going through activities that deal with, harder enemies such as champions, or maybe maybe not champions, but harder enemies that maybe have shields. I'm thinking like the Hive or the Cabal, or other enemies that may just be kind of difficult to take down because they don't really have any weak spots, and just make it easier for you to keep on mowing down the enemies of the Traveler. So this can be extremely helpful on top of what we're already going to be doing. For fragments, first up on the list is going to be Thread of Warding. Picking up an Orb of Power grants Woven Mail, -10 to Resilience, but hey, I'll take -10 to Resilience in exchange for having to put an armor mod on, because Woven Mail, of course, is going to give us damage resistance to all incoming and non-precision damage. Next up is going to be Threat of Transmutation. While you have Woven Mail, final weapon blows create a tangle, +10 to strength, so 2 wins on this one. Tangles, of course, can be thrown. It's going to pair with our aspects and, of course, our exotic armor, and on top of that, we're going to get a +10 to our strength. Next up is going to be Thread of Fury. Damaging targets with the tangle grants melee energy. Now, this may or may not be on your list of things that you want to have in this build. The reason I'm not concerned about melee energy is because with our Arcane Needle, as long as we have one already stacked up, the additional one stacks up to 3 times, by the way, will regenerate at a faster rate. Not to mention, we are really only going to be using our melee in a grapple format, so it's not inherently necessary that we have to have our melee back ASAP. Although with this build, with this class, you're going to see it's not really that much time to wait anyways, assuming you're not even picking up Orbs of Power. Last but not least is going to be Threat of Generation. Dealing damage generates grenade energy. -10 to Discipline, which, I'm not really sure how that got past the devs unless that was intentional, but yes, -10 to Discipline, so all the damage that we generate, no matter what it is going to help get us our grenade back, and of course we want our grenade as often as possible. For armor stats, you want to focus on Resilience and Discipline, and if you have any stat distribution left over, go ahead and throw it into Strength. The key here is going to be Resilience and Discipline, because our main style of ability, play is going to be using our Grapple Melee. Our Grapple Melee is going to cause all kinds of chaos, as you'll see, and one of the things that makes it really good is when you pair it with the exotic armor that we are using, everything that's left over eventually gets used for something that adds a debuff to all remaining targets. So it is a win-win to focus on resilience and discipline over maybe 3 different ones that ordinarily I would say, yeah, farm a ton of armor so you can get all 3 of them up into the 80s and higher. But this one will primarily function with grapple melee. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to switch over to this screen right here, and you can see at a T8, your grenade cooldown, if you don't do anything else, is 53 seconds. Your melee is 1 minute and 10 seconds. Now, again, once you pick up orbs of power, that's going to go down. And the fact that you can get increased ability regen on your melee when you have at least 1 stack already waiting means that this 1 minute and 10 seconds is going to be a lot less when you are running around doing whatever activities that you want to do. For weapons, we're going to go with, obviously, the Navigator in our kinetic slot. Its trait, Weft Cutter. Dealing sustained damage severs targets. Of course, we're going to pair this with the artifact so we can deal increased damage with our trace rifle the longer it remains on target to an enemy that has a debuff matching that trace rifle. And the protective weave, firing this weapon at an ally, grants woven mail to both the user and the target. So you can do 2 different things with this build. And of course, if you don't have the catalyst like me, it is important to make time to go and get it. But if you don't, that's okay. That won't really affect the build at all. In the energy slot, I've got No Hesitation. No Hesitation is an easy one to use. You can pair it with Demolitionist and Incandescent, and we're also going to take advantage of the Dealer's Choice perk, which is primarily why I have this on here, which will increase the regen speed of our super. We're going to pair this with our heavy weapon, which I'll get to in 1 second, which will further increase the regen of our super. So you get to double down that. Realistically, your energy weapon is going to be whatever your favorite ad clear weapon is that is a legendary weapon. The reason I have No Hesitation is not because I think it is an S tier weapon for ad clear and those things, but because it has a lot of benefits, specifically the Dealer's Choice. You can also roll it with Demolitionist, and of course, Incandescent is really going to help you on top of all the chaos you're going to be causing with your threadlings. Remember, when you're damaging an unraveled target, it doesn't really matter what you're damaging them with, so if you do happen to kill them with this weapon, you will spawn that tangle and you will spread Scorch to your other opponents. You can also roll this with the heavy ammo finder enhancement, or if you want, you can always switch that over to the special ammo finder enhancement. Depends on what you want to do. Realistically, anything that's going to be in the energy slot needs to be something that can help you generate your grenade faster. This is just kind of the best of both worlds, and yes, I'm aware that No Hesitation functions a little bit different than, say, VS Propellant from the dungeon, or some of the other arc weapons that you could possibly pair with this. I just like it best because you get the extra burn when you clear out a group of ads, and you're already going to be unraveling targets with your Navigator anyways, and of course your grapple melee is going to just cause all kinds of chaos. You're basically going to see nothing but green and orange on your screen if you have it loaded up like this. But honestly, in this slot, pick something that is comfortable for you that you can benefit from in more than one way if possible. In the heavy slot, we're going to go with Pro Memoria. My recommendation is to craft it with Reconstruction and Bait and Switch. This is going to be your main source of DPS after you exhaust your super, so make sure you throw on your backup mag. And of course, Ricochet rounds is going to be nice. You're also going to be able to stack your Dealer's Choice with No Hesitation to increase your super regen. And honestly, when you have the Unraveling rounds activated after picking up an Orb of Power thanks to the artifact, you can also use this to continue the havoc on the enemies of the Traveler. For the helmet, we're going to go with the Solar Siphon, hands-on, 1 Harmonic Siphon, and whatever general armor mod that you need. This one just happens to be a minor mod, but you can obviously fit up to 3 energy if you build it like this. The one thing that I go back and forth with is the Harmonic Siphon. I'm not technically using my strand weapons to clear ads. That's not really their focus. I'm using them to deal serious damage to the boss, as I'm using them, or champs, or possibly just beefier enemies that otherwise I would not want to use my No Hesitation for. But I kind of just decided to run the Harmonic Siphon for this video anyways, but you can absolutely swap this out for a heavy ammo finder, or in this case a special ammo finder if you really want to clutch the Navigator, which is kind of the point of this build. but you really do need the solar siphon. The reason I have the hands-on mod is because I want the ability to generate my super even faster, since I'm going to be spamming my grapple melee at pretty much every time that it procs. In longer lasting activities, I'm thinking like encounters with raids and things like that, this is going to be even more pivotal. The strand super that we're going to be using, if you are using it for general purpose, you're not really necessarily using it for boss DPS, you can cover quite a bit of an area on the battlefield. And because you're wearing swarmers, which we'll get to in a second, any enemies that it tags that you might not be going back and dealing damage to once you hit the ground or however you're doing it, the allies on your team will be able to take advantage of that debuff and cause their own havoc. So the hands-on, I think, is necessary to get your super energy back faster, but if you don't, remember, you still have the dealer's choice perks that are going to help you along the way. You're thinking with just using dealer's choice perks, you're going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of about 25 kills before you get your super. So it does take a little bit, especially if you're not running onslaught. It's going to take you a little bit to get to that 25 number. And again, that's just an arbitrary number. That's not an exact number. I'm just saying that number for kind of the effect of, how long you're going to have to wait by just using your weapons. So hands-on is, what I recommend. The harmonic siphon, this one you can, do with or without, depending on if you want more orb generation or not. For the gauntlets, we're going to go with 2 heavy-handeds and 1 impact deduction. The reason why we're only going with 2 heavy-handeds is if we're doing our grapple melee every 5 seconds, we're going to generate an orb of power. This also allows us to put on a minor resilience mod if we need to get our resilience back to a T10 or a little bit higher. And we also want a way to generate additional grenade energy. So I have impact deduction on here, which again, when you measure it out, you get one of them's got to drop. Normally I would run 3 heavy-handeds or 1 and 1. Generally not 2 and 0 for the firepower, but this one, since we're not actually using our grenade to do damage, we're just using it to grapple, you can successfully put an impact induction on here and take advantage of that as well. If you are really hurting for grenade energy, you can also swap in a font of focus. So every time you have an armor charge, you get an instant 30 boost to your stat that you're at. So I'm at a T8 right now. My first orb pickup will give me a T10. You can do that too and forego the impact induction, but make sure that you have to swap this out for a minor mod that is only 1 energy if you do so. So it's kind of up to you how you want to do it. I just want my grenade back as fast as possible, and that's my focus. For the chest, go ahead and throw on a strand reserves. That's a no-brainer since we're using 2 strand weapons, 1 special and 1 heavy. Go ahead and mod your chest armor with 2 different damage resistances, and of course, whatever general armor mod that you need to get your stats back to where you need to be. There really isn't anything in here other than what I've got selected that's really going to be any better. If you're not worried about heavy ammo economy, you can probably drop the strand reserves because you're going to be proccing special ammo just in general, because that's more prevalent than heavy with your legendary add clear weapon. So you can kind of play around with this and figure out, your best combination that works for you, depending on the activities that you run the most. So one more time, we're going to be featuring Swarmers in a strand build for Warlock. Swarmers, destroying a tangle spawns a threadling. Your threadlings unravel targets that they damage. So you want to cause chaos? Swarmers can help you cause chaos. Then after it's done causing chaos, you can spawn tangles and use them to spawn threadlings, and so on and so forth. You're going to be unraveling targets, which are going to give you unraveling rounds, which paired with the Navigator are going to just absolutely decimate whatever's in front of you. I've got this leg armor set up a little bit differently than in builds past. I do still have an absolution and I do have 1 innervation. However, because I want the increased regen on my grenade, I don't care about my melee as much because we're not going to be using it as quickly as other melee spam styles. We can go with 2 innervations and increase that bonus. It's either 7 or 10% for orb pickup, which is pretty significant, on top of the absolution, which I think is 3 to 5. Don't quote me on that. I remember reading all the stats a long time ago, and since then I've kind of forgotten that. So, but either way, it's percentages back every time you're picking up an orb of power. And since you're going to be using your melee regularly from a distance, you're going to have orbs of power virtually everywhere on top of using your grapple melee. go ahead and activate the Artifice slot, and of course, whatever general armor mod that you need. For the class item, nothing on here is really going to be different than normal. I've got a Reaper on here for the few times that I actually have to use my class ability. When I do, I want my grenade back because of my efforts, so I'm going to put a bomber on. Font of Restoration just to get your health back faster when you pick up an Orb of Power, and whatever general armor mods that you need will be fine. For the artifact, it's going to depend on if you need to mod for champs. So I'm just going to roll through what I've got on here real quick. Of course, we're going to run the Overload Trace Rifles. That's a no-brainer since our main focus is the Navigator. If you opt to switch out of the machine gun and you want to go for, say, like a rocket launcher, that'll give you more champ coverage. If you want to do the piercing sidearms, I can, let me know in the comments and I can recommend some sidearms that I think would pair well. That would be good substitutions for no hesitation. There's a few ones that I think you can pair, but if you do, you're going to have to be conscious of other things with it, and you might not get a Demolitionist perk. Certainly you won't get Incandescent on all the sidearms you could pick as well. In the second column, of course, we're going to go with Unraveling Orbs, and we're going to go with Vile Weave. These two are going to help us create tons of havoc on the battlefield, which is basically going to give us infinite, unraveling and debuff energy towards those enemies that we're shooting at. It's going to help us just absolutely cause tons of chaos. We're also going to roll with Elemental Siphon. Rapid final blows with a kinetic weapon or weapon matching your equipped super, create an elemental pickup that matches your equipped super. When you have this boosted, when you pick up elemental pickups, it also grants matching super energy. So this is something I think is why I also have the Harmonic Siphon on, because I'm using Elemental Siphon. If I didn't really care about Elemental Siphon or the boost that it gives me, I might take this off and opt for... if I'm using a rocket launcher, Perpetual Destruction. If I'm using something else, I could go with Disruptor Spike or Photonic Flare. I could also go with King's Vestige if I'm just running Quarter Blades or the Nether Arena. Realistically, whatever you guys think is best, but I think the way that I have it set up allows you to kind of span the Navigator more and take advantage of the elemental pickups that are going to drop because of it, which again are Tangles and pair with our Swarmers. In the third column, we're going to go with Gold from Lead, Harsh Refraction, and Horde Shuttle. Horde Shuttle, of course, is a staple in any strand build nowadays. The Gold from Lead, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. We're going to be using our strand trace rifle, our exotic strand trace rifle, very often. So we're going to be regularly picking up special ammo. And the few times that we bust out Pro Memoria, we're also not running with a heavy ammo finder perk on our actual helmet. So any Gold from Lead bonus that we can get will help us. The Harsh Refraction is, of course, pivotal. Trace rifles do more damage to targets afflicted by elemental debuffs matching their element type. So whether you have Unraveling rounds, you sever a target, or any version of that, the Navigator is going to do bonus damage. And also, if it remains on target long enough, it's going to do damage itself. So you're going to be able to take advantage of Harsh Refraction, which is going to give you huge... Okay, maybe not huge damage buff, but certainly more damage buff for a special ammo trace rifle than normal. Last but not least, we're going to go with Limit Break. Of course, casting your super when you are critically wounded or have an elemental buff matching your super element grants a period of increased super damage. Because this is an instant burst super, we're not going to be hurting for a countdown. We're just basically going to have the buff and then activate our super. That's all there is to it. And rounding it out, Heavy Ordnance Regeneration, one of my favorite perks that I've probably never taken off for just about every build. Heavy Machine Gun or Rocket Launcher grants damage resistance and increases grenade and melee regeneration for a short duration. So when you are waiting to get your grapple back, you can bust out Pro Memoria, lay about 10 to 20 to 30 rounds down, not really hurt yourself for ammo regeneration, and also generate enough ability energy back so that you can use your grenade or your melee, which will in turn, of course, give you more orbs of power in some way, shape, or form, or cause more chaos. So one of the reasons that I think you should try this build is, hey, I'm not even going to lie, I think the majority of people that took that Rite of Nine quest ended up going and getting the Navigator. Ghosts of the Deep is certainly not the most fun dungeon out there. It's not impossible. It is certainly busy and it's big and it's kind of it plays a lot different than Spire of the Watcher the other week. And anyone who's not super familiar with dungeons in general probably was in for quite a shock, even in explore mode, because it's just kind of a lot more to handle with the symbols and, the style of play and all those things. Spire of the Watcher is a lot more user friendly. So at the instance to get the Navigator, I think pretty much everyone was down for that. And I'm not even going to lie, I hadn't even gotten the Navigator, which is why I don't even have the Catalyst. I, farmed the final encounter when it was in rotation, but I just never got lucky enough for the Navigator to drop for me. So I took advantage of that as well. Quite honestly, it's because it was the one that I wanted the most anyways, besides the other ones, because I already had the other ones. So I'm just going to say that I'm kind of in the majority here, where the Navigator probably didn't drop for a lot of people, and it's probably not everyone's favorite dungeon to run. Certainly not one that people intentionally want to run solo, unless you are just, on your A game and have the best builds and, you understand all the mechanics perfectly. It's a daunting final encounter to try to complete by itself, much less by yourself. So with this build, you basically become a walking threadling or tangle yourself. You can generate them pretty much on the drop of a whim. You can still spread Scorch with your no hesitation. And again, there's definitely sidearms out there where you could theoretically mod this with a rocket launcher and a sidearm, cover all 3 champs. Now, do I think this is necessarily ready for a GM? Maybe, maybe not. I think with better armor rolls, at least for me personally, it probably would be better for a GM than where I'm sitting right now with a T8 and a T6. However, the damage resistance will still work. Pro Memoria still gets the 35% damage boost to weapon damage when you activate bait and switch. Again, this is going to be more of a fun build. Like now that you have the Navigator, what do you do with it? Okay, so for those that are trying to figure out how to incorporate this into their strand builds, yeah, of course, you could slap swarmers on, throw the Navigator on, just see what happens. This is more of a kind of a collective effort to try to focus your build so that you can try to get the most out of it. And I'm sure there's going to be people out there that say, well, I would have used this fragment or that fragment, or, maybe I would use this energy weapon or that energy weapon, or I would use a different, style of play. Believe me, I get all that. But it doesn't really take away from the ability for it to function inside of the Court of Blades, which is, of course, everyone's number one activity right now, spamming that and just seeing how much damage you can do against the masses in public lobbies. Believe me, I understand that, and I have just as much fun as anyone. But also, if you take this into regular activities, heck, even raids, it's going to hold up. Maybe not on every kind of raid, every single encounter or situation, but you're putting out good damage, you're putting out good debuffs, you're buffing yourself. What's not to love? And it's incredibly easy to use, and all the weapons, ironically, now that the Navigator is, is being possessed by more people now than ever, more people have a need for a build for the Navigator. So that's why I think you should try this build. Again, savvy veterans and those alike out there, nothing I'm saying is going to, blow the doors off of anyone, especially those that have had the Navigator forever. You've already experimented with builds. You've had all kinds of time to play around with it. Of course, you've had it this whole season. But there's a lot of people that just got this Navigator, myself included, because I didn't really have good luck with the drops. And it didn't really matter how many times I farmed it. I still got really bad, RNG, at least on this exotic, which kind of stinks because I didn't really have horrible RNG for a lot of the exotics I had to grind for. Maybe I just got lucky, but yeah, the Navigator was just, no matter how many times I farmed it, it just kind of seemed like it was just ever evasive. But anyways, so if you did find anything helpful in this video, please consider liking and subscribing. If you know a Guardian out there who could benefit from a build like this that features their newly acquired Navigator trace rifle, please share this video with them or send them my way. My goal is to help as many people as possible. If you want me to do a Hunter and a Titan build around the Navigator, I absolutely can deliver that for you guys. Make sure you let me know in the comments. And I will also have a dim link in the description for this build as well. If you are looking also for a non-toxic gaming community, I highly recommend joining my Discord. We have a lot of great players in there, a lot of high and low skill, a lot of good mix of everyone. New lights, savvy veterans, doesn't matter. All are welcome. It's non-toxic. Everyone is cool with everyone. Everyone helps everyone. And that's what you want in a gaming community. So if you've been looking around, I encourage you to consider joining. It will not affect me one bit or another if I'm going to keep making these videos or not based on how many people join. So it's really just based on if you're looking for some pals to go around the galaxy with, taking on the enemies of the Traveler, no matter what it is, whether it's Strikes, Gambit, Crucible, doesn't matter. People do it all in my Discord. So shout out to my Discord for being super welcoming. Shout out to my Discord for just being super inclusive with any kind of player that's coming in there, whether they're high skill, low skill, new light, old light, whatever, it doesn't matter. Everyone's been very cool and very nice, and I'm very pleased to be able to offer that to people for those who are still looking for a non-toxic gaming community. Anyways, I'm going to switch over to the outro video here. You guys get the idea, but I mean, come on. Who doesn't want to see more green on the screen? All right, I'll switch over now. So I wanted to be able to show you guys a battle with a boss where things don't go according to plan and how this Warlock build can hold up. You can see initially I start off no problem. I'm kind of at a safe distance, and then all of a sudden right behind me, enemies are going to start spawning. You're going to see that I get kind of bombarded. I have to jump back, I have to readjust, I have to use my grapple. I'm switching between weapons. Now I've got a blight I got to deal with. Now I got a shielded enemy I got to deal with, and I've got some beefier adds, and I'm just kind of bobbing and weaving. With Prismatic Warlock, for example, you have lots of tools in your belt that you can pull out pretty much at any point. You also have Transcendence, and you also have a lot of different things that you can build your Warlock with. However, this Strand Warlock, you can see right there, air-mailed my melee. It holds up over time, and it's very consistent. So whether you're dealing with adds or you're dealing with bosses, you have tools and you have escapability, and of course you have damage resistance. So hopefully you guys like the build. I will see you guys next time. Take care.